Hi, it's Miss Joanna, and I am going to tell you today all about one of my favorite things, a 5-gallon bucket. Well, okay, maybe not the 5-gallon bucket itself, but what we can do with a 5-gallon bucket. So today I want to tell you about two things, composting and making a vegetable garden. So composting is something that's very good for our environment. We want to keep things like vegetables, scraps, food scraps from our tables, leftovers. Those things really don't need to go in our landfill. We can use them, we can turn them into great rich compost or soil right for our gardens. You can dump them right on the plants you have in your own yard or use them in a new vegetable garden like I do, and have really rich nutrients for our soil. So what I'm going to do is tell you what you need. So you need a 5-gallon bucket, and if you're making a compost bin, you definitely need to buy the lid. Okay, so if you're using them just to make vegetable gardens, you don't have to buy the lid separately, but you definitely need the lid for your compost bin. So what we're going to start with is drilling holes. So I've already pre-drilled the holes in the bucket. You can do that with a drill, or you can pop several holes in the bottom with a hammer and nail. So I've used a drill and I've put about 6 large holes in. You'll want a lot more for drainage if you're using a nail. But once you have your holes drilled, and in the top you'll just need a couple small holes drilled in your lid for your compost bin for ventilation. But what you're going to do is simply add table scraps like old bread, and I've got potato peels and old tomato, and we're going to put those things in, and you'll continue to add to this every couple of weeks. And then every once in a while you'll pick your bin up and rotate it around. But you sit this right on the dirt in a shaded area. You don't want it in full sun to cook, but you'll put it in a shaded area, and what will happen is beneficial bugs like ants and worms will actually make their way into your compost bin and help break down the food and leave behind rich nutrients and things that really help this become broken down compost or soil. So what we do, we put the lid on, and then you just set this aside and forget about it, except for about once a week when you add your scraps. Okay, so once that's done, you put it to the side, and now I'm going to talk to you about making a vegetable garden in your 5-gallon bucket. So again, we have holes drilled in the bottom of our buckets, but this is a nice tomato plant that I've been growing, and it's had several tomatoes on it already. This is a sweet potato plant. Sweet potatoes are growing inside this bucket right now. They've been in here for about 8 weeks, so pretty soon they're going to be ready for harvest. But what you do with potatoes, either sweet potatoes or regular, you fill your bucket with a nice rich soil, only to about right here. So I've already filled it up a little bit. Then you take your potatoes that have eyes on them, and when I say eyes, on your potatoes, they'll start getting these little sprouts. See, these are kind of a purple color in this bucket. And you'll set those down into there. You only want a couple of potatoes in one bucket. And then you continue to fill it with soil until it reaches about 2/3 of the way. And what will happen is those potatoes, they'll start sprouting and get green, healthy leaves coming up over the top. And then you'll fill it with more soil once that happens all the way to the top. You'll keep these nice and wet as they grow. You don't want them to be mushy and soggy, but you do want them to have water frequently. And then, like I said, you'll have a healthy plant. In about 10 weeks, these are ready to harvest, and what happens is these will get flowers on them. Once the flowers die back and the plant will start to kind of look more brown anyway, then you know it's about ready to harvest, and you just simply dump the bucket out and you have potatoes. But there are lots of things that you can plant in 5-gallon buckets. You can plant okra, you can plant carrots, you can plant the potatoes and tomatoes, but you can certainly have a lot of fun with a garden without having to dig up your yard. I'm here in my own yard. I just don't have room for it, and so I can use buckets to help me out. I hope you've learned something today and have fun making your own compost.